It was one of the most daring rescues ever attempted. American Kurt Muse, held hostage in a fortified prison controlled by Manuel Noriega in Panama.
I knew that as an American in that environment, I didn't stand a chance in hell of getting out of this place.
Can Delta Force commandos find and liberate the prisoner before it's too late?
Mr. Muse was going to be assassinated if a rescue was attempted.
But just when success seems within reach, everything goes terribly wrong. It's just after midnight on December 20th, 1989. 23 Delta Force commandos in 4 MH-6 helicopters are on the most dangerous mission of their lives. Destination, Panama City. Objective, find and rescue an American hostage named Kurt Muse.
We knew he was in a prison in Panama City, near the commandancia, essentially the Pentagon for the Panamanian Defense Forces.
As rockets and explosions light up the sky, the choppers land on the prison roof through a hail of bullets.
You heard a lot of shooting, but I couldn't really tell if it was the enemy shooting at us or Americans shooting back at the enemy.
U.S. snipers pick off guards in the towers, while an explosives team attempts to blow the roof door. It will be an all-out fight to save Muse from certain death. Muse had been arrested and imprisoned 9 months earlier on espionage charges. His execution could happen at any time at the notorious prison.
Modelo Prison was a prison that was built in the 20s, 30s to house approximately 200 inmates to 300 inmates in a safe manner. And basically, by the time that Kurt was in there, it was housing maybe 6 to 8 times that many prisoners in their horrid conditions.
The mission calls for the team to arrive under cover of darkness, using helicopters to access the roof of Modelo Prison. They will use explosives to blow the rooftop door off its hinges and storm down 2 flights of stairs while engaging the enemy. When they reach the 2nd floor, they must find Muse. Once located, they will neutralize his guard, blow the cell door, extract Muse, and rush him back to the rooftop. Then they will board the choppers and escape back to the U.S. base near the Panama Canal. They estimate that the mission must be completed in 6 minutes or less. Speed and surprise are the keys to success. Kurt Muse, the man they're set to rescue, is a regular all-American guy with an extraordinary past. In 1987, he is living and working in Panama when he runs afoul of Panamanian strongman General Manuel Noriega and his defense force, known as the PDF.
One of my companies, which was a small printing company, printed something that he considered objectionable. PDF came in the middle of the night and burned it. He also killed a friend of mine. I just said, that's enough. I can't take this anymore.
Muse, together with a small group of Panamanian friends, begins using radio equipment to broadcast anti-Noriega messages. Their Voice of Liberty broadcasts are perceived as a threat to the dictator.
Because we were operating Under very risky conditions, we could not transmit with very much power. The Panama military quickly caught up to our game and tried jamming us on the frequencies.
To keep Voice of America up and running, Muse is forced to take extreme measures.
Tomas Munoz and I went to Miami on several occasions to buy goodies for our radio station. We buy them and smuggle them into Panama.
U.S. officials are initially against it.
The CIA was at the beginning, they were appalled at what we were doing. When our government realized that this was, in fact, a person that needed to go, then that agency was more helpful and more supportive of our cause. And they provided us with some equipment that we did not have the ability to make and to continue our operations.
After acquiring more sophisticated equipment, the pirate radio team plans their biggest coup. An interruption of Noriega's official state address. The speech is to be made in front of 20,000 people and broadcast all over the country.
As soon as he came on, we hit our transmit button, and he just spoke. But it was our message that was broadcast nationwide.
Desafiando la mordaza de la tiranía. Esta es la voz de aliento del oprimido.
And we broadcast a message of hope to the people of Panama.
Por la libertad de expresión, la democracia y la justicia, transmite la voz de la libertad.
It was definitely a point of no return. This was our Rubicon. We very quickly were elevated to #1 enemy of the state, and we were hunted down like dogs.
On April 7th, 1989, during a return trip from Miami, a PDF official sees Muse walking through Panama's airport. He is immediately arrested and questioned.
My interrogation lasted about 4 days.
Último, a tus amigos, a las familias de tus amigos.
They would have loved to have executed me. They just didn't want to do that to an American citizen.
U.S. military intelligence quickly learns of Muse's arrest. Marcos Ostrander, the chief of international law and affairs for the U.S. Armed Forces in Panama, immediately arranges to visit Muse in prison.
I could see that he had been deprived of sleep, very nervous, and just gone through hell.
I didn't expect any help from the U.S. military. It was more of an embassy function. But what actually saved me was the fact that my wife was a Department of Defense teacher, and I was therefore a dependent of a DoD employee. And by the Panama Canal Treaty, certain rights were afforded me.
Kurt's rights include medical checkups by an American doctor. The doctor is contacted by Delta Force to start memorizing details of the prison's layout to aid in a possible rescue attempt.
They wanted to draw pictures of the inside of the Modelo prison. And so I began to give them a word description. And eventually I saw the product, beautiful hand-drawn pictures with the Modelo just as I had described it, from the entrance through the stairways and the cell block and so forth. Cracks in the floor, everything.
The intelligence that the doctor brought back, which allowed us to build a scale model, was very important, was very relevant.
A mock prison is built at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. It's here that rehearsals for Kurt Muse's rescue take place. The Delta element also practices at a U.S. school in Panama, only miles from where Kurt is being held. Delta Force is a secret unit of special operations focused on counterterrorism. They are the best of the best.
We could land helicopters on the roof, could explosively breach doors, and we could do live fire inside the prison.
We walked through it, we talked through it. If there was a problem during that rehearsal, we would stop and fix it right then and there. I've rehearsed for this mission more than any other mission I've been involved with, by far.
Muse has no knowledge of any rescue plans. After several months in Modelo prison, he thinks he's been forgotten. He decides to try getting a letter to the one man who he believes might help him.
I wrote a letter to President Bush explaining who I was, where I was, the Herculean efforts to get me out. And I concluded by telling the president that the only way that any change would happen is if we forcibly removed General Noriega.
But getting a letter from a prison in Panama to the White House isn't going to be easy. Muse and Dr. Ruffer devise a system. Kurt carefully hides his letter to President Bush in the binding of a book, then waits for his next meeting with the doctor.
If I told in my meeting with the doctor that a particular book was particularly good, then he knew that that book contained a message someplace in it, and they would take it apart.
The exchange goes off without a hitch. Amazingly, the letter reaches the president. He responds by writing to Muse's wife, Anne, giving her hope. We are doing everything we can to bring about an end to this crisis and the release of your husband. Your husband is a brave man. His courage and conviction have my respect and admiration. Meanwhile, the situation in Panama is deteriorating. A failed coup attempt makes Noriega even more paranoid.
They put a guy on my cell with a machine gun, and he was going to kill me. And he just sat there playing with his bullets. And he just looked at me. And he has had on the trigger. So I knew that I was going to die.
After 9 hellish months in a Panamanian prison, Kurt Muse believes his time is running out.
I just point blank asked the guard. And I said, Corporal, would you really shoot me? And he said, "Sí, señor." And just walked away. And that was kind of a chilling reminder that the end's pretty near.
Little does Muse know that for the past several months, a special Delta Force unit has been training for his rescue. But President Bush needs a trigger event, something to justify going in to rescue Muse and arrest General Noriega. He doesn't have to wait long. On December 15th, 1989, a U.S. Marine officer is killed by Noriega's henchmen near the Panama Canal.
Last Friday, Noriega declared his military dictatorship to be in a state of war with the United States. The very next day, forces under his command shot and killed an unarmed American serviceman. That was enough.
And I saw on the TV where a Marine lieutenant had been killed. And I knew then, I had a gut feeling that this was gonna be it, and sure enough, my pager went off, I came in, and we got word that we were gonna be executing.
Five days later, President Bush launches a massive military effort to oust Noriega and neutralize the Panamanian Defense Force. Part of the operation includes a secret mission to rescue Kurt Muse. Its codename, Operation Acid Gambit. Delta Force is told their mission is a go.
It was kind of surreal. It was excited, anticipated, and then you have the doubts, or at least I did, of, hey, am I going to be able to perform the way I'm supposed to, or the way I've trained to? It was anticipation that when a handful of guys that get to go on this once-in-a-lifetime mission.
15 minutes before the major operation to oust Noriega begins, the mission to rescue Kurt Muse kicks in. The plan is to get Muse to safety before the big guns hit Panama City. The commandos fly in on 4 MH-6 helicopters, known as Little Birds because of their small size. The choppers are without weapons. Their call signs are Chalk 1, Chalk 2, Chalk 3, and Chalk 4.
We were sitting on the outside of the aircraft. It's basically a bench seat with 3 people sitting on each side of the bench. We flew up across the canal. It was very quiet, kind of peaceful. I was on Chalk 1 coming in. About 30 seconds out, rockets came across the nose of the flight.
The rockets are fired by 2 U.S. helicopters that are supporting the rescue mission. The target is Noriega's headquarters, the Comandancia, located near the prison. It's a diversion. Seconds later, Chalk 1 and Chalk 2 land on the prison roof.
Our job when we first landed on the prison was security. We moved directly to our position, which was on the left front of the building facing the Comandancia. We knew there was guard towers. On the left front tower in front of us, there was a guy there. Not a very brave guy, not a very smart guy either. But we gave him an option to come out with or without his weapon. He chose to come out with his weapon.
Unfortunately, once we got on the prison, it was like being on top of a bullseye. I heard shots the whole time. I mean, I could sense bullets flying overhead. From my perspective, once we landed, the infill went great. Birds 1 and 2 went in, and 3 and 4 went in. A lot of firing going on.
Each member of the 4 commando teams has a specific job. To get into the prison, the first team's breacher needs to break through the door on the roof. He uses explosives.
When the team breacher pulled the M60 fuse igniter, which gets you about a 5 or 6 second delay, he pulled it hard enough to pull the charge off the door. Non-electric explosive train doesn't go off. You're supposed to wait 30 minutes before you approach that. Obviously, you can't do that in combat. So I think I waited a few seconds and told the team breacher to go back up there and replace the door charge on the door.
It works, and they're in.
Going down the stairs to that floor first, the first thing that I noticed was there was a PDF soldier standing inside the hall. So I immediately wanted to put this guy down, and I yelled at him, "En el piso, en el piso." So I put him down on the floor, and then immediately button hooked around and left that to the other guys on the team to take care of.
The soldier surrenders, and the commandos descend to the second floor, where their intelligence says Muse is jailed. His guard and would-be executioner is gone.
It did surprise me that no one was there, but then again, it could have been that we got down quick enough, he just wasn't ready.
James enters a room opposite the cell and comes face to face with Muse's guard.
Myself and the team leader immediately went in and cleared the room. In the meantime, Pat and Kelly are already working on Kurt's door.
Muse is still locked in his cell, but he knows there is an attack on the prison.
The smoke was coming down the hall, and I saw these white lights sort of illuminating things. Two apparitions come to my cell door. And across the street, Inspector Gunship lights up the comandancia, illuminates through my cell. And I see over here these people look like Darth Vader. And the guy screams at me and says, "Moose, are you okay?"
Yeah, I'm okay. You okay?
I go, yeah, I'm okay. Get down, I'm bolting the door in.
Get down, get down.
First, they try shooting the lock off with a shotgun.
Pat, I believe, used 2 shots. And it was such a hefty padlock that the shotgun didn't do anything to it. So we switched roles. He then covered me. I was carrying a set of 3-foot bolt cutters, some very heavy industrial bolt cutters on my back, and with that, we cut off the padlock.
Once we breached the cell, Kurt was to the right, and myself and Kelly flowed through and cleared the rest of the cell. Came back, got a hold of Kurt, checked if he was okay, basically told him Merry Christmas, and we're Americans, we're here to get you out. And at that point, started putting on all his the safety gear that I brought in. Helmet, goggles, body, armor, vest. Didn't want him getting hurt on the way out.
Having been in that place for 9 months.
Terrible.
And have one of our soldiers, it's obviously clearly in charge, stating in no uncertain terms, that he's there to take me home. Just an incredible feeling.
Now our role was security to get the precious cargo, as we call it, out.
They walked me out the cell, down the hallway, and these operators just materialized out of darkness and sort of covered me up.
I distinctly remember is when we were getting ready, we were back up on the stairs. We were getting ready to evacuate. Helicopters were coming in. At that point, we called exfil for the birds to come in.
X-ray 1, Golf 1, DC secure, ready for exfil.
Brought Kurt up, our helicopter landed. We pushed Kurt in. Everything was going good. It was great. Yeah, mission success.
It's taken the allotted 6 minutes to rescue Kurt Muse from his prison cell. Muse and his rescuers are thinking they're off scot-free. But soon, they'll face the most harrowing ordeal of their lives. A daring rescue mission by Delta Force commandos has freed Kurt Muse from a prison in Panama. But his journey to freedom is far from over. There's a big problem with one of the choppers.
We lifted off the roof and immediately, I don't know if it was a nosedive, but we slid off to the left-hand side. That wasn't according to the plan.
Special Ops soldier Larry Vickers is in Chalk 2, watching Chalk 1, containing Muse, take off.
It appeared to be overloaded. It lifted off to the left side of the prison as we were facing, and then essentially kind of dipped down into the darkness, trying to gain speed. At that time, I lost it. It was pitch black. I really couldn't see the helicopter after that.
The pilot of Muse's Little Bird dips the aircraft to avoid hitting power lines. At the same time, the chopper is taking fire from the Panamanian forces. The extra weight on the helicopter causes it to quickly lose altitude. It plummets 60 feet before the pilot regains control.
We were taking fire immediately, a lot of fire. And they had gone down from we're about 4 floors up and dropped down to about 4 or 5 feet off the ground, and we're sort of moving down the street. And I thought he was doing it to avoid getting shot at.
Well, that wasn't sufficient either, so he landed.
The Little Bird is struggling to fly. It can still move, but only on the ground.
At that point, things were getting interesting. We should be flying, but we're driving now. So we go down the street, away from the prison, make a left-hand turn. We go a few more feet down that street, and he stops. Me and Kelly unbuckle, do the same thing, get out, take security positions.
Now on the street, Pat and Kelly prepare for a firefight. But the pilot wants to leave the area quickly.
James comes out, grabs us, says, get back on the bird. He can take off.
Chalk 1 lifts off again, directly into enemy fire. But Pat and Kelly have forgotten to buckle their safety harnesses.
At that point, the tail boom of the helicopter started taking rounds. You could see it getting stitched. And since it was head level, I thought, well, the next round's going to be in my head.
One hit me in the belly area.
I felt Kelly brush off my left shoulder and fall forward.
The force that doubled me over I went.
I went to grab him, and I launched off the skid at the same time.
So I dropped about 20 or 30 feet. I hit my head, and I blacked out for pretty much the rest of the operation.
Kelly has been shot in the chest. Fortunately, an armored vest saves his life. But now, he and Pat are helpless and exposed on the ground.
We beat the helicopter to the ground. Next thing I know, my eyes open up, I'm on the ground, blood everywhere from my right leg. Then I see the helicopter, one of the skids is broken. At that point, yes, it was not like rehearsal.
In the crash, Pat Savage is hurt, but he's not the only one. The Little Bird's left skid has landed directly on James Sudderth's leg.
So I was actually pinned underneath the aircraft. My foot felt like somebody actually literally taken an axe and just hacked into it. For at least a couple of seconds, I had to be completely unconscious. But once I was and realized what was going on, I started kicking the skid as hard as I could with my other foot to try to get it out from underneath there, because I didn't want to die on the ground on my back.
Hey, let's go! Kurt Muse scrambles from the chopper unhurt.
I was not conscious of anything going on around me except my own condition, and I didn't know who was injured or not.
With the mission now in chaos, Muse searches for cover. But James is still stuck.
I kicked and kicked and kicked until I got my foot out from underneath there. And once I did that, then the next pain that went through my mind was the pain in the back of my leg, and I could feel a piece of shrapnel or metal. And I pulled that out. It just sort of fell out.
Finally free, James limps over to help Pat, still on the ground with his injured leg.
I don't know if it was adrenaline or what, but right before James came up to me at that point, it was just like, hey, I'm not dying in the street today. So he helped me up, so we needed each other's help to get off the street. And then we took up security positions. Kurt was fine. The two pilots were fine. Everybody else was pretty much kind of in a bad way.
We basically took cover in positions behind the different vehicles. They're gonna get Kurt, they gotta come past me, and that's just the way it was. And I was prepared to do whatever I needed to do, including die, to make sure that that didn't happen.
Trapped on a